Happy Mushoku Mondays, everybody. Welcome back to yet another trek through the Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation novel series. We are on Chapter 7 of Volume 8. I have completed Volume 8. Yay, it's done. I am really hoping to kind of get through the rest of this volume. The next two chapters don't really have too much to really kind of deep dive into, so I think those two can go pretty quickly. It's really more in the final chapters. That's where the juicy stuff is at. So I'm hoping we can complete this volume, but we'll see how things go. As per usual, you can see in the title. And Andrew says it every time. I'm sorry, I just don't like to post-record the outros and intros like some people do, but anyways, as per usual, thank you guys so much for dropping by for the premieres, those that check out the videos, those that share this out, those that tell your friends, everything that helps the algorithm and gets the videos out there to more people. I greatly appreciate it. And as per usual, I greatly and deeply appreciate those that support through Patreon, our tips link, those that are members on the channel itself. You guys mean so much to me. But with that said, let's jump right into Chapter 7. Chapter 7 is the kidnapping and confinement of the Beast Girls, Part 1. The return to the bad side of Rudeus. Let's just put it the bad side of Rudeus. He has his reasoning, but at the same time, I can't justify what he does. But yes, we get a little more context at the beginning of Chapter 7 as to what happened at the end of Volume 7. We had that whole situation where Ariel first showed up. They had these bullies walking around, Linnea and Priscilla, and they took them down. Well, this kind of gives us a perspective of them themselves, Linnea and Priscilla. Of course, we already knew that Linnea is Linnea Dodolia, who is the daughter of Gius, and who is the next tribe leader of the Dodolia tribe. And of course, the current one is Gustav, who is her grandfather. And of course, Dodolia being one of the Dodolia tribes, acting as the protectors of the Great Forest. Of course, the one that we didn't get much information about is Priscilla Adolia. She is the daughter of Tertelia, and she's the granddaughter of Adolia tribe's leader, Bulldog. So, apparently her grandmother is Bulldog. It's a very interesting name. They are dog girls, so I guess it makes sense that their name's just Bulldog. And we also get a little more information about the Dodolia tribe itself. They are special amongst the beast folk, tracing back 5,500 years after the aftermath of the first great human-demon war. Since then, afterwards, humans winning pretty much seen beast folk as nothing but slaves to humans, and the Great Forest faced invasion. The beast folk themselves were forced to have to take a stand. Alpha at the time, beast god Giger, I guess it'd be Giger, but Giger, probably Giger, like ginger, but without the N, fought with both wit and power to defend the Great Forest. Since his passing, the Dodolia tribe was revered as chief amongst the beast folk. So that gives us a little clue and indication as why them? They've always kind of seen as like the biggest cheese, but why? That kind of explains it. Nowadays, yes, beast folk are outnumbered by humans still, but they also live in the central continent and the Begaric continent. They wielded great influence amongst the elves, the dwarves, and the hobbits. Now this was the interesting part. Their military power within the Great Forest can go toe-to-toe with the holy country of Milis, if they desired. This is another one of those things where I guess it makes sense. I mean, with everything that happened way back at the Great Forest when Rudeus was there, we got an indication that when they weren't being messed with by the smoke from the flames, they were really strong. Like, these dudes were super fast. I mean, Rudeus couldn't keep up to him. He had to mount the back of one of them and ride him around. They were really powerful. Now, unfortunately, still had some issues with a certain somebody, but it's still interesting. Now, coming back to Linnea and Priscilla, being the fact that they are pretty much princesses of this substantial power, this meant that they held a high social standing when they enrolled at the academy, which is why they ended up being a bunch of bullies walking around with an entourage and everybody feared them. They kind of, when they first arrived there, they actually feared the humans. They were timid. But when they realized the humans kind of feared them, they took advantage of it. Now you're questioning, why are they even at the academy? Well, the previous generations, Gius and Ghislaine, were screw-ups. So apparently Gustav decided to send them off, see if they can gain wisdom, bring them out of their authority as being princesses within this great forest, and throw them out on their own. That way they can, I would say, kind of like humble themselves, but gain knowledge, gain wisdom, and be in a place that was outside of their standing. Which is kind of funny, because when I first read this, I immediately thought of Gius, because I remember when Rajerd was talking to Gustav, what was he mentioning? Gius screwed up. These children below me, they're not like the warriors of the past. They're all screw-ups. The one that was always pointed out for us in the story, like vocally they were pointed out, was Ghislaine. She was the one that was pointed out as being like this feral person that couldn't be controlled, and then they just kind of got rid of her. Well, again, we got hints that Gius was the same case, that he was a screw-up as well. So again, this whole thing was Gustav's idea. However, like I said earlier, the moment they arrived there, they were greeted with flattery, and the teachers treated them with caution. With their lineage actually having weight there, it went to their heads. And to add on to that, the fact that they had a combination of the fact of the incantations they were learning in classes, plus their specific beast tribe vocal magics, their dexterity, their racial strength, they could bring upperclassmen down to their knees. Again, it kind of goes back to when we were talking about Sylphiette, when she was going to her classes and they went to the whole training classes where they actually did sparring and dueling. The one thing that they were pointing out was that everybody didn't want to duel with this one person because he was hitting people with his rod. These students are all used to just kind of standing there and going pew pew, and so now you have these very fast beast folk that can get up on you really quickly. They're able to essentially paralyze you with their voice. Yeah, they have a huge advantage, which gives more credit to Fitz being able to take them all down, but still, they were seen as something that was extremely powerful and out of the norm. And yes, this grew worse because they started resorting to extortion, blackmail, and bullying. Then, of course, yes, Ariel showed up. She took the spotlight, everybody praised her, and quickly, Lenny and Priscilla got seen as delinquents instead. So they started harassing her. And eventually, they were destroyed by Fitz. Their goons was, of course, expelled. Their status was lost. Following this, they took all their anger out on the other two special students, which was Zenoba and Cliff. After defeating them, they started making Zenoba have to gather information about Ariel and all that kind of stuff. Again, getting their perspective, how it all kind of got to their heads and ended up to where they ended up. Then we got to Zenoba. More Zenoba. Always love more Zenoba. It's been a month since Julie started working under them. Rudeus has been tutoring her. Each day, Rudeus would have Julie cast one spell using an incantation. From then on, he had her silently conjure clumps of earth. Within a month, she had learned silent casting, and this shocked Zenoba. However, Rudeus said that she had a long way to go, as she ran out of mana really quickly, and she was only able to cast it once. Still, in Zenoba's eyes, she was doing something he had no talent for. Poor Zenoba. But Rudeus was amazing. This was proof that it was right to become his pupil. Rudeus had also been teaching her the language of men, and she was a quick learner. Zenoba seen her as a good purchase in the end. She was smart, she retrieved things with little instruction, and was good at knowing what Zenoba wanted. She reminded Zenoba of Ginger. We never did get that story. Of Ginger. I kind of miss Ginger. He knows that typically newly purchased slaves would have some sort of brand put on them or a magic seal, but it seems as if Rudeus didn't like that sort of thing. So Zenoba agreed with him. She was honestly more of a pupil than a slave. Then an incident happened. Like I mentioned in the last Mushoku Monday, I already read this part, so I knew this was coming and my heart broke. One day, while Zenoba was instructing Julie on the wonders of figurines, he pulled out his reserved figurine out of a secure box before Rudeus asked, "By the way, whatever happened to that Roxy figurine?" A cold sweat covered Zenoba's body. The one thing he'd hope he'd never asked about. Zenoba considered telling Rudeus that he just left it in Chiron, but he didn't want to lie to Master. The truth is, it's technically here. But his body was as heavy as lead. It is? I'd like to see it since it's been a long time. Will you take it out? The anticipation in Rudeus's voice made Zenoba's heart hurt. He knew how much it meant to him. He then removed another secure box and opened it before Rudeus's shocked face. "Hey, what the hell is this?" It was destroyed in 5 pieces. "Explain this, Zenoba. You. Come on. What the hell is this, huh?" Rudeus was angry, no longer using his dispassionately polite speech, and he was tripping over his words. "Didn't I tell you how grateful I was of my teacher? How much I respected her? Didn't you understand how much I poured my feelings into that figurine when I made it?" His voice was overflowing with murderous intent. Terrified, Julie hid behind Zenoba, and Zenoba wanted to hide too. "Don't tell me, are you trying to mock Roxy? Are you actually my enemy?" "Master, no, that's not it." Zenoba knew that Rudeus talked about Roxy all the time. It wasn't just adoration. He was a religious fanatic. Zenoba got the same vibes from him as he got from the Temple Knights, which is pretty bad. I mean, again, it makes sense. I mean, the Temple Knights, if they seen you like doing something against the Mill's faith, you're done. So it's kind of the same idea here. He knew his master would strike him down in anger if he got serious. Zenoba was a blessed child, but he wasn't magic resistant. Master, that's not it. That's not it at all. This is my most precious possession. The one I wagered in a duel with Lenny and Persina. After I lost that duel, it was tragically destroyed when they trampled it with their feet. But I absolutely did not do anything to mock Lady Roxy. Duel, you say? Yes, apparently a year ago, he was challenged to a duel by Lenny and Persina, and the loser had to give it their most precious thing. And yes, the figurine was Zenoba's. He didn't think he would lose, honestly. But of course, they used some sort of shout that paralyzed him. Afterwards, Zenoba handed it over, assuming they would recognize how great it was, but no, they had no appreciation for it. What the heck is this? This is creepy, nya? Before dropping into the floor and stomping on it, breaking it into pieces. Once Zenoba explained all this, he said his master's murderous intent finally subsided. So that's what happened. I understand. He patted Zenoba on the shoulder. He thought his murderous intent left, but there was something more sinister in the expression on his master's face. You should have told me right away. If I had known this is what happened, I would have never smiled like such a fool. Let's teach those girls a lesson. Zenoba thought Linnea and Persina were going to die tonight. He was certain of it. Master's gonna kill them both. Master. Zenoba trembled at first at what he thought was fear, but soon realized was joy. Yes, Master! With his powerful ally at Zenoba's side, he could finally exact revenge for them destroying his figurine. Zenoba's still crazy in the end. I mean, he's chilled out a lot, but getting kind of this internal thought process of him, you can still get that sense of how crazy he is. Now, granted, we just heard in a previous chapter him hugging a stone statue, but still. This is where we cut to Rudeus' perspective. Unforgivable. Rudeus hated bullies. He may have forgiven them for ordering Zenoba around, but taking something precious of his and destroying it was outrageous show of violence. Yes, Rudeus likened this to when somebody came in and busted up his computer. His last joy. Well, yes, it's just a figurine. Still, it was like kicking Roxy herself. That's what was wrong about this. Like someone stepping on a sign of a deity. He understood the two of them didn't understand this. How much Roxy got him through. But he was going to teach them a lesson. He told Zenoba that they would capture them alive and punish them for defying God. Still, Rudeus had to be cautious and wanted Zenoba to be in his plan. Honestly, Zenoba didn't understand why he wouldn't just do it alone because of how great his master is, but Rudeus acknowledges that there's been 4 people that have actually bested him in his life. Edis, Bergerd, Ghislaine, and Orsted. While he figures that he could have beat Edis, they never actually fought seriously. Zenoba, victory must be absolute. The past cannot repeat itself. Master Roxy must never be trampled upon again. To be honest, I would really like to enlist the help of Master Fitz and Ellen Elise, but unfortunately, the both of them seem to be busy. We'll have to do this on our own. After a while, Rudeus found an ambush point between the main building and the dorm. It was a wide area with low visibility. You gotta notice here that they kind of stood there for so long, like, are these girls actually taking their classes seriously and staying after? He said they've been staying there so long and getting covered with snow, he was afraid they'd come there and see them in like this really bad state standing there. But no, eventually they did arrive. They exchanged a few harsh words. They were joking about the fact that Zenoba enlisted some child to get revenge. Rudeus mentioned the fact that Lenny and Persina were just always attached to the hip. And at some point, Zenoba even about took him on himself. Still, Rudeus kind of calmed him for a second. But this is the weird part. They wanted to be left alone. Lenny and Persina really kind of just want to be left alone. I mean, they were really harsh with their words, but they didn't want to get involved with anything. They know that they were actually busy honor students and had given up on being delinquents. This is where I kind of feel bad about it. It's like, yes, they were kind of really nasty over here, but it seems like they've kind of moved on. Like they're actually taking things seriously. At this point, Rudeus in his own head got frustrated. He was no longer titillated by those nyas like he used to be. Nyan, 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 nyan. I'm sick of hearing it. Are you incapable of normal human speech? The beast folk I'm acquainted with could all converse properly. You aren't a baby anymore, so stop talking like one. Nya? Linea's mouth flew wide open. Then her pupils rapidly narrowed. An angry breath exited her, and her tail stood up straight and rigid. You bastard! I'll strip you naked and throw water on you, nya. Linnea always loses her temper right away. Priscilla went to open her mouth to use vocal magic. Rudeus used Eye of Foresight and called Zenobia to take care of Priscilla. He didn't actually know if disturbed magic would actually work on her vocal magic, so he decided to conjure a dust cloud in front of her, causing her to inhale it. Then, using his Eye of Foresight, he could see how clumsy Linnea was compared to Edis. He struck her chin with the palm of his hand. Now on her back, he put his foot on her chest and hit her with a stone cannon, knocking her out. She looked like a frog sprawled on the ground, and the impact of the battle flipped up her skirt. She was wearing white. Looking back at Priscilla, she was fleeing on all fours, and Zenobia was trying to catch up with her, but was extremely slow. I want to see this animated. This is Zenobia running. Rudeus ended up using Quagmire right underneath Priscilla. She flopped over on her face, and then he used Stone Cannon to knock her out. After the dust settled, he signaled for Julie to come out, and she had a sack in her hands. They quickly stuffed the two girls in the sack while Rudeus pondered about their lack of skill. Edis and Paul would have never fallen for those traps, or at least would have had some sort of logical counters to every one of his attacks. It made him consider that the two of them were actually really talented. Zenobia, carrying the sack, praised Rudeus for his skill, claiming he could have done it all by himself. But as they were heading back to the room, Rudeus got the impression Julie had fear in her eyes as she looked at him, which we'll find out why later on, and I got a huge, massive kick out of it. It's extremely convenient, but it makes sense. But yeah, I got a kick out of the fact of him comparing Linnea and Priscilla to somebody like Paul and Edis, which makes sense. I mean, he's dueled the two of them a lot, and yeah, he's technically, I don't remember if he ever used it on Edis, but he's used a sort of Quagmire type ability to try to stop Paul, and Paul either would like brute force out of it or avoid it. So again, it's sort of putting this perspective onto people that really haven't seen true combat. This expectation of those that have. Paul has gone to labyrinths. Edis has traveled the demon continent. These aren't the same thing. I mean, I assume that Linnea and Priscilla have never been to the demon continent. They traveled up to this location. You would assume they probably have run into some, fights here and there, but not, I don't know. I mean, we may later on find out they've been through like life or death situations and whatnot, besides, Fitz kicking the crap out of them. But I think there's something to be said about somebody who has gone through life and death situations. These are people that have pushed themselves to the limits. And yes, as we found out from Edis, and especially from her perspective, she pushed herself really hard. No wonder she got to the point that she did, and starting so early that she did. Whereas, yes, Linnea and Priscilla, according to Gustav, were living the life of luxury. They were living as princesses. That's why he kicked them out to go train, go learn things, and get out there and get out of your life of luxury that you're living in. So again, Rudeus does this a lot, so it's not a big deal here. Rudeus loves to compare people, and I think we as people do that too. We constantly try to go, well, this person figured it out before this person. Why couldn't they figure it out that quickly? Not to say everybody does that specifically, but we like to compare things. It's easy to really kind of figure things out by comparing it, or figuring out what's wrong by comparing it. But yes, that's chapter 7. Let's move on to chapter 8, the kidnapping and confinement of the Beast Girls, part 2. It's where things get a little more risque. We cut to Linnea and Priscilla tied up and regaining consciousness. When they did, they shot glares with a bit of concern. They were twisting, ended up flipping up their skirts, exposing all. The sight was honestly insanely stimulating to Rudeus. He had heard before that Austrian nobles had a certain types of fetishes that would kind of akin to this. He wondered if possibly the whole act of him losing his virginity had awakened some sort of desire for something like this, some sort of fetish. So he thought he'd try it out. He wiggled his fingers near Priscilla's chest. She snapped her eyes shut with a terrible look on her face, as if she was being tortured. And yes, Rudeus grabbed it. Gosh, Rudeus. He thought about how her chest felt amazing. But unfortunately for his old issue, he only felt a faint sense of arousal. His little man was not waking up. After he let her go, Priscilla looked confused. After she sniffed, her expression turned to relief before a conflicted look popped up on her face. He kind of notes that of the two of them, it seemed like Priscilla was the one that had like really good smell. That's why she's always kind of smelling. We kind of got a sense of that back in the classroom when Rudeus was introducing himself and Linnea was talking to him. At some point, you have Priscilla over there and she's like, "It stinks." Like, she's always talking about how he stinks. But yes, what she's doing here, obviously, is smelling to see if he's aroused. We got a sense of that way back at the Great Forest, way back at the Doldia village, was the fact that they always can smell when he was aroused. But of course she wouldn't smell anything because he's not technically getting there. But it's sort of indicating from here that, yes, she's like expecting that he's just going to go all out and just have his way with her. And then he stopped. And so she's like, wait, he didn't do it. Oh, good. And then she starts smelling like, well, is he aroused? Oh, he's not. And then she has like, I'm guessing the conflicted look is like, well, but why isn't he? Like, am I not good enough? It's kind of sad. Like, this whole situation is just screwed up from both ends. At this point, Zenoba watching, he's like, is this what we're going to do to punish them? And Rudeus turned to try his luck on Linnea's chest. No luck again. He's seeing the mounting humiliation upon Linnea's face. Rudeus recalled BDSM enthusiasts, those that got off by watching things like this, gazes that slowly distorted and sunk deeper and deeper in despair. And yes, he admitted that he got into those kind of fetishes back in his previous life, but this was different. That was behind a computer monitor or some anime or something like that. This was in real life. It wasn't the same. It didn't feel right. Being that Linnea looked like she was just ready to shout, he decided to ungag Priscilla. They obviously want to know what was going on, so they brought out the figurine. And quickly, Priscilla mocked it as a creepy figurine. The thought of his god being called creepy nearly set him off, but he restrained himself. Instead, he walked to the corner of his room, to the altar that he had set up, and he opened the double doors, revealing the relic to all. I could not stop laughing reading this section. Everyone was shocked by the object of worship. Zenoba shrank back, and Julie grabbed him by the hem of his shirt with a look as if she was about to cry. That figurine was created in the image of my god, and the two of you kicked it, trampled it, and shattered it into pieces. Linnea and Priscilla looked to each other, then to the altar, then to Zenoba and Julie, then to Rudeus. They were pale. Now, the Rudeus corrects himself. They were actually blue, like a blue screen of death. They were just blue screening. They didn't know what to think. Suddenly, Priscilla started to blame Linnea, who was still gagged. After removing Linnea's gag, she began to blame Priscilla. And they started making excuses. But in their rambling, it was noted how much Zenoba struggled to find every single piece. This warmed Rudeus's heart. It kind of points it out as like his affection levels for him just shot up. And so Zenoba's about on his route. At this point, Rudeus called them heretics that should be punished. Well, they tried to threaten Rudeus, claiming that Gustav would have their heads. Rudeus was reminded about the punishment that he faced back at the Doldia village, figuring that he could probably do the same to them. Strip them naked, pour water on them, which obviously they don't want. They panicked because this is like, again, this is like the biggest shame possible for the beast folk, is doing that. No, we'll do anything you want. So anything but that, please, nya. I was telling some folks that Priscilla, I don't know why, I just absolutely love Priscilla after this volume. I just absolutely love this dog girl. You could do whatever you want to Linnea, so at least have mercy on me. What she said, nya. You could do whatever you want to me. What? Like, this is their joke. This is their long-running gag right here, is that Priscilla says something to do something to Linnea, and then Linnea repeats it and then realizes that she's being pretty much downed. Rudeus spoke up. You Doldia were cruel in your punishment when it came to your beloved sacred beast. Granted, they did apologize once they realized I was wrongly accused, but in this case, the two of you are definitely guilty. At this point, they started apologizing, claiming that they didn't know it was that important. Rudeus in his mind realized that they couldn't know what it's like to have something that important destroyed. It dredged up his feelings about his brother destroying his computer, his only source of support in his previous life. That was pretty much all he had left. He was a shut-in. All he had was his computer screen. It was his insert into anything, information, entertainment, the outside world, basically. While they offer to show their bellies as an apology, which again is another very embarrassing thing for them to do, Rudeus felt the only way they could apologize was to fix it. Something Zenoba claimed that Rudeus himself couldn't do. But then Rudeus realized he could fix it, actually. It just finally dawns on him. He's been so outraged. He's seen it. He freaked out. He got angry. And then he got a new target. He went to go get the target. He's got the target. He's figuring out what he's going to do with the target. And then finally it dawns on him. Wait, rewind. I could have just fixed it back here and it would have been just fine. But not only that, he could make it better without any segment lines where the joints connected. So finally, suddenly, his anger left him. He could actually forgive them. In fact, he was sort of committing a crime right now. He finally realized, I'm kind of committing a really bad crime right now. I mean, you've already got kidnapping and you have sexual assault. So what else do you want, Rudeus? Come on. He even realized that a certain spear-wielding person, if he's seen this spectacle, would not be happy. Rijerd would not be happy. Papa Rijerd would definitely not be happy, Rudeus. Still, he had to make sure the two of them had learned that you can't destroy something so precious to somebody else. But now that he was calm, he couldn't think of anything sinister. So he turned to Zenoba for his thoughts. Let's have them face the same fate as my figurine. No. Killing them was going overboard. I don't like murder. Then, let's sell them off as slaves. The sale of Doldia tribesmen is forbidden, but I believe there's a family in Asura with an intense love for them. I wonder who he's talking about. You always know what he's talking about. Someone would surely pay handsomely for slaves like that, even if it meant breaking the treaty. Well, that might be difficult, considering the family you mentioned is on the brink of destruction right now. Listen to me, Zenoba. Jokes aside, they are princesses. We need to choose something with a low impact, or we'll suffer consequences later. You never cease to amaze me, Master. Even as angry as you are still in the mind to think of self-preservation. Rudeus at this point thought he could just keep them as they are. I mean, they are a feast of the eyes right now, tied up and everything exposed. No. He was already on the hook for kidnapping, but he wanted a satisfying end. So he turned to Master Fitz. This is gonna turn into like a common thing here. Ah, crap. Can't figure. What does Fitz think? We need like a segment. What does Master Fitz think? Yes, he goes to Master Fitz. Wait a second. So they're being held in your room right now? Yes, they are. Don't be alarmed though. I've already informed the teachers that they won't be attending class today. So you're saying you capture them and confine them with Zenoba's help? Yes, the two animal beauties. Rudeus honestly realized that yes, he technically has something from his previous life's bucket list happening right now. He's got two animal girls tied up in his room, though he does acknowledge the fact that his bucket list included some extra steps there that he hasn't done. I would say you've started. Rudeus, since you imprisoned them, did you? His face turned bright red. No, I haven't done anything perverted to them. Really? The worst I did was grope their chests. So you did touch their chest. I wanted to test something. Huh? So you didn't touch them for other reasons? No, it wasn't for other reasons. All right then, but there's one problem. Despite how they behave, they are still descendants of tribal leaders. Don't worry, I'm acquainted with the tribal chief leader and the warrior leader. What? Seriously? Yes, so if I tell them I knocked the girls down a peg or two, that they were slacking off at school, I'm sure they'll understand. Just how did you get to know the tribal chief? The Doldia are so aloof when it comes to other races. It's exceedingly rare to ever meet one like the tribal leader. Well, this is the main character of an isekai. Jeez, Fitz. Rudeus at this point told the whole story about the Great Forest. Wow, you are really amazing, Rudeus. For the sacred beast to take a liking to you, that's amazing. I suppose that even a mutt can tell when someone is their savior. You better not use that word in front of the beast folk. Obviously warning about the fact of calling the sacred beast a mutt. It's not something you want to do. I mean, you could probably get away by calling a beast folk a mutt, but not the sacred beast. That aside, I can really use your wisdom on this matter. How can I teach them a lesson without incurring resentment or revenge down the line? That's a difficult question. Fitz hummed in thought. I do agree that ganging up on someone, then destroying their belongings is unforgivable. Rudeus honestly thought that he would just immediately say to release both of them, but it his anger seemed to be stoked by the fact that they were targeting someone that he knew. Considering his actions at the slave market, Master Fitz might be a person with a strong sense of justice. No, it's because it's you, Rudeus. It's because it's you, Rudeus. Okay, I have a good idea. When they got back, it had been 24 hours since he confined Linnea and Priscilla. This is where things just get way worse. Oh gosh. They had soiled themselves and were completely surrendered. It seemed hunger and being confined had driven them to their limits as a beast folk. At this point, he stripped them of their lower half, taking their underwear and their skirts and washing them down. Like, how casually is it this? Like, I'll just wash them. They don't mind. I'll just clean them up. You're terrible, Rudeus. You're absolutely terrible. At this point, as Fitz was cleaning their skirts and their underwear, Rudeus looked pleased the sight of the two of them that he just released kneeling before him with pretty much nothing but a shirt on. At some point, Fitz had to call his name to snap him out of it. Oh, right. It looks like the two of you are both remorseful, so I'm considering forgiving you. I know that probably doesn't do much to alleviate whatever emotions you're feeling right now. It's rough not being able to move for a whole day. You must be scared stiff, stuck in a dorm full of sex-hungry men. At this point, the two of them offered to do whatever he said. They wanted to be his follower, but he didn't want that. He just didn't want to tolerate them making fun of Roxy, which they agree, stating that mocking someone else's god warranted death. I think somewhere in there, they honestly believe this. I think the moment that he showed in the shrine and really kind of pointed out that this thing was, again, a symbol of a god, they realized very quickly that's not a good thing. Again, this is the beast tribe. This is the beast folk. Their sacred beast is kind of the same thing. You don't do anything against this. And so they would honestly realize that. What would happen if they touched the sacred beast? Your death. What if you touch somebody else's? Death. And yes, technically, apparently, Priscilla had a run-in with the Temple Knights once. They chased her down, which led Rudeus to mention the fact that, yes, Therese was a member of the Temple Knights. So he's got connections. You feeling me, Priscilla? It makes you wonder at some point when these girls go, okay, wait, now, hold on. I mean, I was following you when you said you knew who Gius was, Ghislaine, Gustav. I mean, you're name dropping here. They kind of went with it. But now you're talking about, like, people, the Temple Knights and all this other stuff. At some point, are they going to realize, wait, how do you know all these people? This isn't normal for someone your age to know all of these people, Rudeus. But yes, done cleaning, Fitz gave them back their clothes and they put them on, which, yes, aroused Rudeus more than them being taken off, which he didn't understand why. While Linnea and Priscilla were open to do whatever Rudeus said, their chastity seemed to be the only limit. They weren't willing to have his children. Linnea wanted to properly get married and have children. Priscilla was fine with being touched, but she said she wanted expensive food in return. Again, that both of them are fine with anything, they just don't want to have children, but Priscilla's like, oh yeah, by the way, also, if you want to touch, I want some food, at least. I'm not going to touch that. I'm going to leave that there. In the end, they wanted to go. They were hungry, but Fitz didn't want Rudeus to let his guard down. You haven't learned your lessons, have you? Fitz, this ain't got nothing to do with you, nya. That's right. Nya! Off. Master Fitz looked stunned. Both of you, sit down, Rudeus yelled. Yes, sir. Woof. Master Fitz, I've changed my mind. Please do as we discussed. At this point, Fitz brought out a bottle of ink and a brush. Fitz, we'll remember this, nya. Nya! That's the only problem with Priscilla. She's got a nasty mouth. She got a nasty mouth. I know some people like that. She got a nasty mouth. But at least everybody enjoys the nyans in here if I catch them all. I don't know. I don't know if I have a womp that I can put in there. Woo! Maybe I can find a womp because it's always Priscilla. Woo! Linnea and Priscilla had bitter looks on their face. Their brows had been connected with a unibrow and their eyes doodled on their eyelids, each with a mustache painting around their lips. Finally, on their cheeks were the words, I'm a dog who lost to Rudeus, and the other one, I'm a cat who lost to Rudeus. This is a special paint that is used by a certain tribe to pattern their bodies. If I chant the right incantation, the marks will become permanent. Even water will never wash it off. If you ever turn on Rudeus, I'll use an incantation and you will wear those marks on your faces forever. They accepted the terms. nodding and trembling in fear. The agreement was for them to wear it all day the next day. Then they would remove the ink on their faces, but they wouldn't remove the obscene things that they wrote on their backs for 6 months. After this, the two of them went to leave out the window. They couldn't have them go to the boys' dorms hallway. Linnea turned and asked, "Boss, you were able to predict our movements, even though you're just a magician. What kind of training did you do for that?" "Nothing special. I just followed my master's teaching and moved accordingly. That's all." Now this is interesting because Rudeus says that he figured it was due to his skill that he gained while training with Edis. While he always felt weak as compared to her, he did realize that he had gotten stronger in his own right. Again, I would more say that it's the Eye of Foresight, but again, technically trained the Eye of Foresight quite a bit with Edis, but yeah, I guess you can give credit to his training in knowledge of combat because he has sparred so much. And again, back to my previous statement earlier and the idea of him comparing the two of them to Paul and Edis, it's real experience, putting yourself in a situation. I would also argue there's a bit of it that has to do with the fact that he's faced death. And again, that has taken away his hesitation. Seeing somebody like Linnea dashing at him as a beast folk, normal person would probably panic. But he's, again, doesn't have that fear anymore. "Who is your master, Nya?" That'd be Ghislaine, I guess." "Ghislaine? Do you mean Ghislaine of the Dolia tribe, Nya? The Sword King Ghislaine?" "The very same." Again, this is more names he's throwing at these girls, and they're just taking it. He's got like this big old like address book. Like he's got his phone out and he's just scrolling through contacts now. I've also met, let's see here, the Death God. I didn't know it was Death God at the time, though. I also met, after they left, Fitz admitted that the paint incantation thing was all a lie. Apparently, it's just ink that washes away using mana. Fitz giggled, like a child who successfully pranked someone. It was endearing. Crafty, nasty Fitz. After this, Fitz stayed in his room for a while, fidgeting around and bringing up topics now and then. He ended up asking about the altar that Rudeus had made, which, yes, Rudeus admitted it was the Roxy Faith, and he had to stop him. He was like about to open the door and look. He felt that it was so divine that it was dangerous for humans to look upon. And he also realized that it might put him off by seeing women's underwear. And yes, he realized he regrets deeply that he showed it off to so many people the previous day. That was my immediate thought, like, well, you just showed a whole bunch of people at the previous day. It terrified everybody. You've like scarred Julie for life. She's gonna call you a hentai, just like your sister. Fitz apologized and questioned Rudeus about the pillow that he had. It made an odd noise. It was a pillow that Rudeus had made himself. It was beast fur that was filled with ground down seeds of a mustard treon. It was something that he had made himself to assure his restful sleep. And yes, Fitz asked if he could try it out, which Rudeus permitted. "This is a good pillow." "You're the only one that's ever said that." Technically, the only person that's tried it is Ellen Elise, and of course, she said that she preferred a man's arm. As Fitz laid there, Rudeus wondered if he'd ever see the face behind his glasses. After silence, Fitz lifted himself up. Rudeus thought that he'd seen his cheeks red. "You want to see?" His heart rate accelerated. See what? He realized really quickly that was a really stupid question. It was obvious what he was asking. "My face." "Yeah, see his face." Like he was anticipating something else. What was he getting excited about seeing? What part of him did I want him to show me? He thought. Again, I really just want Fitz to be a dude and it just to be a BL at this point. I'm just gonna kick out of this interaction. "I want to see." "Okay." He placed his fingers at the edge of his frames, but they stayed there. Rudeus likened it to a girl with her finger hooked through her ponzu. For some reason, Rudeus was nervous too. What the heck for? Maybe he was self-conscious about some prominent feature? Like he has a scar, a burn mark? Maybe his eyes bulged out like a chameleon's? That would be so great to have this like shot in the light novel where like the glasses are lifted up and it's just like, I don't know, just bulging or just like, I don't know, voids of death. Just like roaches start to stream out of it like a horror film. I don't know. It just random thoughts. Just kidding. Sorry, but these are Princess's orders. I'm not allowed to show my face to anyone. I have a baby face and it would destroy the reputation I've built as a fearsome, silent Fitz. I don't care anymore. I don't care at this point. I'm just moving. I just don't care anymore. I don't care anymore. Oh, so that's it. Well, I have no intention of forcing your hand. Thanks. I appreciate you saying that. I better hurry off to Princess Ariel. With that, Fitz took his leave. Rudeus thanking him for his help. Rudeus sighed relief. He felt that if he'd seen his face, he might be invited to the world of gay desires. Afterwards, he had to use deodorizing powder to kill the smell of beast folk that was still in the room. And then he laid down. The pillow still had Fitz's scent. It wasn't unpleasant. After everything that he went through, the arousing sensation with kidnapping girls, groping, and everything, he had no signs of recovery. He honestly had more luck with Fitz. He felt like crying. I feel so bad. It's such a conflicting thing. It's like, you know why, but at the same time, it sucks for him because he doesn't know what his mind's going through. He doesn't know what these feelings are, and it's confusing the hell out of him. The next day, Rudeus showed Zenoba the writing on Linnea and Priscilla before erasing it. Zenoba was still upset, but after Rudeus temporarily fixed the Roxy figurine, he looked satisfied. And that is the end of chapter 8. Solid chapter. Like I said, this is just a lot of character development here. I honestly believe, like, setting up Linnea and Priscilla, bringing them into the fold, because now on, they're just literally sold that Rudeus is, like, somebody that bested them. It's obviously somebody that is an alpha to us. We have to follow him now. He's stronger than us. He's shown us that he's stronger than us. They're going to follow him. And obviously getting a little bit of more of a very up and close and personal moment with Fitz that's completely bothering Rudeus. At least from the perspective of his issue, it seems like he's actually stating this stuff is, well, slightly arousing. He's getting something out of these experiences. His unit's not working, but he's at least acknowledging that something's happening, which is something, honestly, before he even got here, he wasn't getting anything at all. Like, even with Annalise in bed with him all the time, it was like he had nothing at all. No sensation of it whatsoever. So, I don't know. Maybe Linnea and Priscilla are his fix. Three-way? I don't know. That's when we get into side story Sylphiette Part 2. I'm not falling for it anymore. Just never going to fall for it anymore. Sylphiette has seen Rudeus again. Just a few months ago, he was alone, but now he is accompanied by Zenoba, Julie, Linnea, or Priscilla. She wanted to go with him, but she was busy attending the princess. She honestly hoped that Rudy would reach out to her instead, but unfortunately, he didn't seem to remember who she was. Their eyes met countless times. I wonder if this is true. I really, honestly, right now, I really want to know if this is true. Like, he's walking around, and then that's the issue, obviously, is what's the truth here? Did she walk by with this hat all over her face that covers her eyes and her ears and everything, and she walked by Rudeus, and I don't know, she peeked and go, oh, our eyes met, and he didn't recognize me? Or is she legit out there without a hat on, green hair, and their eyes met? I don't think so. My other theory that was going with when I started reading this part was like, okay, your eyes met when you were walking around as Fitz, and that's why you're wondering why he doesn't recognize you? That's the big question mark. And again, I'll get more on that a little bit. But she figures that he assumes that she was nothing more than another attendant of the princesses. That was kind of the heartbreaking thing. Is like she can't seem to get out to talk to him. She's hoping that he'll come to her. But then as I get into with here in a minute, she might not want that. She's seen Rudeus with Priscilla going to the healing magic classes. She wondered what kind of relationship they had. Being that Rudeus was of the Notice family, she figured that he was into well-endowed girls. But she wondered if maybe he's just helping her with classes. Leaning in close, sharing the same textbook. The thought depressed her. At this point, Princess Ariel once again snapped her out of it as they arrived at the student council room. Ariel knew she was watching Rudeus and gave a genuine smile. Sylphiette replied with a huffy dismissal at her comments. In this segment right here, you really get the sense that Sylphiette is really comfortable with Ariel. And it seems like she's noting Ariel seems okay with it. Like, Ariel's not scolding her for talking that way. So again, it gives you a little of that perspective of this is a friend. This is a friendship. The two of them have a friendship. Yes, she is still an attendant. She is taking care of Princess Ariel. Princess Ariel is still a princess, But when they're alone, when nobody else is around, they're friends, which I thought was interesting. Every time Rudeus passes by, you track him with your eyes. Am I not allowed to? No, I never said that. I do feel a little irritated at Rudeus for not remembering you. You've had such strong feelings for him all this time, but it's like he doesn't remember you at all. Well, but, I mean, I haven't told him my name. Who knows? Maybe he doesn't remember me. Again, this is implying that she legit is walking up to him and he's seeing her. I would assume right here, Princess Ariel would be like, yeah, but you're always covering your entire face with a hat. It's implying here that Ariel is seeing Sylphie and he should recognize her. That's heartbreaking. That's really heartbreaking. But yes, it seems like the fact that he hasn't recognized her has made her cower at approaching him. This is why she's not actually going out and talking to him. You haven't told him your name yet? No, I haven't told him. Oh, you told me that he didn't remember you, so I just assumed. The nearby knight spoke up, which I'm assuming is Luke. This is the one thing I really don't like about Sylphiette's part. It's like, it's always like, why can't we just say names? But again, I guess it's like the formality thing here. You haven't even told him your name? Well, it's not like I have a choice. What if I tell him he doesn't remember me? Princess Ariel, what do you think of this? Well, it seems she's more of a coward than I thought. She thought that she was whispering enough that Sylphie wouldn't hear her, but she heard her. Personally, considering how striking Sylphie's hair color is, I think it's a bit heartless Rudeus still doesn't recognize her. Again, implying she's not wearing a cap. Rudeus, There's probably going to be a reason why. There's going to be a reason why. Calm, Andrew. Agreed. Sylphie in her mind acknowledged the fact that she's always been teased for her hair, but felt that it wouldn't be enough for Rudeus himself to recognize her. Princess Ariel, if you would leave this matter to me, Luke, do you have any good ideas? So yes, it is Luke. He is the descendant of the Notice line. If you throw a curvy woman at him, I'm sure you will. Absolutely not. She covered her mouth, realizing she shouted at two people higher ranked than her. I'm sorry. They didn't scold her, though. Instead, they whispered to each other, either how to punish her or how to deal with Rudeus. She knew that either way, it wasn't good. Sylphie, can I ask you a question? It's something I've asked you many times before. Isn't there something you want to do? There isn't. Right now, all I want to do is work in a way that benefits you, princess. So, that's how you feel. Is there something wrong? Perhaps you haven't realized it yet. Honestly, Sylphie knew what she was trying to say. She knew, but she couldn't answer honestly. It would be like betraying her if she did. Here, I think she's implying that she knows that she wants to go to Rudeus. Ariel's giving her the option of leaving. Again, if this is true, if my thought process here is true, it is Ariel who has always seen Sylphie as a friend. Doesn't see her as an attendant, doesn't see her as her possession. She's always been wanting to find Sylphie something she wants to do. I think, honestly, overall, I think she wants Sylphie to go. Like, she doesn't want Sylphie to get involved in this. So if she sees that Sylphie loves Rudy, she wants her to go. She wants her to make the decision to walk away. That's why Sylphie knows what she's implying. And she knows that if she answered honestly, it would be betraying her. She'd be betraying her friend because she wants to serve Ariel right now. Sylphie, yes? Ariel had a genuine smile, a relieved one. One Sylphie had only seen maybe once or twice, probably not even that. I won't rush you on the Rudeus matter. I don't mind if you use fits either. Do whatever you like. Sylphie remembered the look, one that she had seen more when they first met. So this was probably before she lost her position. Sylphie hadn't seen it since they arrived at the magic city of Shreya. A carefree smile. It's kind of sad here. It kind of implies the idea of Ariel hasn't really had any sort of freedom. She hasn't had a carefree smile since they arrived there. But yes, I don't want to forget about it, but yes, she technically right here specifically says, I'm not going to rush you on the matter. I don't mind if you use fits either. Here's my new theory. So we're going... I had a ton of crazy theories. What was it? 4 total theories in the last one. I still think at least 3 of them apply. The idea of it being 2 people, that they arrive at the same location for some reason, but for some reason Fitz has a similar backstory as Sylphie, all that kind of stuff. Here we finally have a moment where there's a presence of Sylphie and somebody acknowledges Fitz besides Sylphie. So we have at least officially, it seems like, split the two of them. These are two characters. But I think by her saying, I don't mind you if you use Fitz, implies that Sylphie is dyeing her hair, putting on the glasses, and acting as Fitz. She's going out into the open as Fitz. If Ariel's walking around, I think it's actual Fitz, because it's a guard. But when Fitz is out by himself, it's Sylphie. Sylphie is that. And that would explain why suddenly out of nowhere, Fitz ain't acting like Fitz. Fitz is very frail, very cutesy. It's because it's Sylphie. Sylphie is taking on the persona, the character, the person of Silent Fitz, disguising herself to go out and talk to Rudeus. And that's the only time that she's comfortable doing it. When she's not in the disguise of Fitz, she's afraid of confronting him because she's afraid that he won't recognize her. And it's making her cower. She's afraid of that. She's afraid of hearing those words. Who are you? I don't remember you. And so she decided to keep kind of checking him out, spying on him as Fitz. So that's my new theory. And it would explain everything that's happened before. It still doesn't explain Fitz's perspective from the first time we met him, because again, too much of his backstory is literally Sylphie. But that could have been that back there. It could have been her, but I don't see why she would act as Fitz back then. So, put on a pin on the theory board over here and let it sit there for now. It's just never going to answer this damn question. It's just going to keep going on into volume 12 and 13 and 14 onward. Anyways, moving on. That night, Sylphie knew what she wanted. She wanted to get close to Rudy. Wanted to become friends like before. Laugh, play together. Have him teach her things. Rebuild their relationship. She wanted to stand beside him, shoulder to shoulder. It was something she wanted ever since they lived together in Buena Village. She's always strived to stand beside him like as equals. Again, somebody else seeing Rudeus as this thing on a pedestal. However, and this goes back to my theories I was saying before, this doesn't go in line with the princess's objectives. She wanted Rudeus as a follower, but Rudy was avoiding her associates. Apparently she has been reaching out to him, and he's been avoiding it. And I don't think we've ever had him actually state that, but I guess technically he's bumped into Luke at least. But maybe the fact that he has been kind of always with Zenoba and stuff, maybe that's what. But again, from Rui's perspective, so far in this entire volume, he's never outright said, oh, somebody invited me to go see the princess, and I was like, no. So Sylphie thought that possibly Rudy knew their intentions. He was smart like that. Sylphie knew, and this is where it hurts, Sylphie knew that if she got closer to him, so would the princess. And Rudy might misunderstand. I think right here she's implying the idea that she might think that she's trying to get that her going to Rudeus will realize, oh, you're just here because you want me to meet her. Or maybe he would come to adore her like everyone else and serve her. Sylphie didn't want that. She didn't want Rudy to become like everyone else, taking a knee and becoming a follower. She knew that's what he was summoned there for, and she hadn't objected at the time. That's interesting. It implies that possibly Ariel asked Sylphie about it, and Sylphie didn't object. Or possibly she overheard it and she didn't speak up. That could be as well. Yes, Rudy was special to Sylphie. She didn't want him to be with someone else. She knew what it meant to not want him to be with anyone else. She wanted an exclusive relationship with Rudy. Girl, then speak up. And like I said earlier, stop disguising yourself as somebody else. Oh, girl. Honestly, again, here's the struggle point for me. This means that I think all of my that I have gotten in Fitz as a different character has just been Sylphie. it makes me believe now that when I was talking about earlier, this idea of actually liking the idea of it being two different characters, I was happy to learn that Fitz was Fitz and Sylphie was Sylphie, because I wanted Sylphie to be her own self. It's technically it. Like, again, Fitz has always been like the cold and cool person, the quiet person, the silent person, silent Fitz. And that all these interactions with Rudeus where it's like coming up and talking all the time, it's always been Sylphie. And so it is kind of nice that we've kind of had this whole kind of build up. And I think if what I'm saying, my theory is true, it's revealed that it is Sylphie, it's going to be that moment where you realize all this development of Fitz has been Sylphie's development. And then we might go back to meet who the actual Fitz is. That character. But anyways, whenever it's finally revealed. Chat. Shh. Let's move on to Epilogue. I love this chapter so much, and some people probably know exactly why. Andrew's always been wondering what the heck happened. What happened? 3 months into his schooling, school life was monotonous. He's got the same routine that he's doing over and over again. Still, it would be a lie to say that it wasn't enjoyable. Rudeus never made it to high school. Yes, in his previous life, he got to junior high, dropped out, and became a NEET. This kind of was, I don't know if I've ever gotten to this in these videos, but this is that interesting idea that Rudeus in his previous life, grew up, he was in school, he was pretty good academics and everything, and then at some point he got into computers, and then he messed up, he did something that somebody didn't want, so he got the attention of the bullies berated him, did terrible things to him, he left school, went into his room, and stayed there all the way into his adult life. Now he's in his new life, and he's coming up, and then suddenly he's able to go to a university like he never did before. So he's it's that continuation, which is kind of interesting. It had been a long time, but he might just get wrapped up in the nostalgia and the novelty of it. Still, that could wear off, but he wasn't after a degree or anything like that. I mean, anything that he's going to get here is, his whole purpose here is what the man God said. Let's be perfectly clear. He's not here for a degree. He doesn't need a degree. He doesn't need anything from this place. And he honestly wondered, once they did achieve this goal, would I want to stay? But yes, life had gotten better in the last 3 months. First, there was Julie. Zenoba was taking good care of her. Taught her how to read and write, fed her, gave her clothes and a place to stay. He treated her like a sibling more than a slave. Honestly, giving her the name of his deceased brother probably was some sort of affection there. And through this whole ordeal, Rudeus got a glimpse of a more human side of Zenoba. And Julie seemed to be quite attached to Zenoba, following after him like a duckling. However, for Rudeus, she had fear in her eyes. Here it is. Rudeus asked Zenoba for his opinion. Like, what's going on here? What do you think she's afraid of me for? Apparently, dwarves had a fairy tale called the Hole Monster. It lived deep within a hole and loved bad children. It would crawl forth and kidnap them. If a child tried to run, the ground beneath them would turn to mud and trap them. Sound familiar? Yes, the fact that Lenny and Priscilla were bad girls. The fact that Rudeus used Quagmire to make Priscilla sink in the ground. And it gets worse. After he trapped them, the monster would stuff them in a bag and take them back to his lair. Yes, they threw Lenny and Priscilla in a bag, and they brought him back to Rudeus's lair. Eventually, the children would Eventually, the children would reappear on the surface, but would be so well behaved, they seemed like different people. It made you wonder what happened to them when they were down there. So yes, after Zenoba and Julie left, and Rudeus went to Fitz, came back there, he did more terrible things to them, and then the next time that Julie seen them was after that whole ordeal, and suddenly they were well behaved. Everything matched to a T. It's so dorky. It's so dorky. At this point, Rudeus decided that he was going to be cautious around her and compliment her more. Maybe give her a treat. But then he realized, no, he didn't want to treat her like a pet. As for Lenny and Priscilla, they were being very friendly around him. When he questioned them, they offered to be more respectful, but they did admit that they weren't really good at being formal. Priscilla said that their respect for him was genuine, though. They respected the strong. Not only that, but she said it while her tail was wagging, which kind of implied that that's her telling the truth. It seemed like they were warming up to him. Rudeus was just honestly glad they weren't holding a grudge. which I honestly believe that he would deserve it. It would be deserved. Rudeus honestly enjoyed their company, having two girls always around him. Plus, their presence seemed to be keeping delinquents at bay. Now here's the interesting part. As Rudeus left homeroom, he was greeted by Ellen Elise. Hey, Rudeus, you sure made a lot of friends in a short time. Friends? Oh yeah, but they're all girls. Not surprising, I guess. You are Paul's son. Now, it doesn't answer why she's calling Zenoba a girl, but still, they're all girls. Persena, Lenia, Julie, Fitz. Elle at least knows. She's not dumb. Rudeus replies, that's not true. Not all of them are girls. You know, Paul said something similar a long time ago. Miss Ellen Elise, it's rare for you to come all the way here. Was there something you needed? Yes, I need to borrow something. You're going to have to find someone else to do that. Mine is currently out of order. That's not what I'm asking for. I left a magic textbook back at the dorm. Could you lend me yours, please? Rudeus honestly was kind of shocked at the fact that Ellen Elise has been actually attending classes in earnest. He sort of wondered if it was similar to something like Ghislaine. Ghislaine was always telling these stories about how she struggled because she didn't know magic. Maybe he figured that Ellen Elise was trying to remedy that as well. Well, I suppose so. I only have one copy, though, so don't forget it again. I'll return the favor at some point. I wonder how she will. I am kind of curious about him saying, you know, Paul said something similar a long time ago. Like, there was some point where she was questioning about how he's always friendly with a bunch of girls. He's like, oh, they're not all girls. I don't know what that would be implying. Maybe we'll get a story about that. As he left, two pairs of eyes was watching him. One was the gaze of a young boy who was leaving homeroom. He looked angry, then he returned to class, obviously Cliff. The other one was from the highest floor of the research building. If one were to look up and meet those eyes, they might tremble in fear or widen their eyes in shock. A watcher with a featureless white mask covering their face. I wonder who that could be. Who wears a featureless white mask that if Rudeus seen them, he would tremble in fear or widen in shock? It's obviously Zenith. No, it's Nanahoshi. It's totally gonna be Nanahoshi. It makes me believe that possibly Nanahoshi is silent. Because I was always my previous theory was this idea that Silent was Sylphie, and she was doing all this crazy research that Zenoba was talking about, the other special student. And then Fitz was Fitz, the guard of Ariel. And that was this two-pairing character, and Sylphie would become one or the other. And no, now I'm believing that this one that's doing all this clothing line stuff with a Rimac company, it's not Silent Fitz. Silent is going to be somebody else, and I think it's probably going to be Nanahoshi. The one that's working away in the research place is one of the other special students, doesn't have to be there, and is doing all this research that is advancing things and all blah, blah, blah. And the outfits would make sense. Why everybody's wearing Japanese school outfits and uniforms. Nanahoshi, again, from Japan, Nanahoshiyaki is pretty much turning the school into a Japanese school with skirts and everything like that. So that all makes sense now, which kind of helps the whole theory in Silent being Sylphie, because then I no longer have the immediate thought that Sylphie is a isekai, which I've had that theory a long time ago that Sylphie was going to be another isekai, but I kind of put a huge pause on that because I really don't have anything else to build it on. But at least here now, again, we're pretty much like 99% sure that Nanahoshi is going to be an isekai because of the Nanahoshiyaki, the rice fields, and the involvement there. And again, my previous theory was that Nanahoshi was the girl that was going to get hit by the truck that Rudeus was trying to save. That she was pulled into this world, and Rudeus was pulled with her. So, for those that didn't know that theory that I made a long time ago. But anyways, that's for probably next volume. We'll see. Now here's where things get really cool for Andrew. Far east from Rudeus, there was movement. Past the Northern Territory's easternmost kingdom of Behiriel. Oh my gosh, that name. Across the ocean laid an island known as the Ogre Island. There, an ogre tribe reside. Dark red-haired people with a single horn on their foreheads. They were led by a strong warrior called the Ogre God. They were a tribe of demons that didn't participate in the Great Human-Demon War nor Laplace's War. Kind of interesting that they've secluded themselves from every crazy thing that's been happening in this world, at least recent. For this reason, humans saw them separate from the demon race, kind of like the dwarves and the elves. But because they kept isolated, their existence wasn't common knowledge. Invaders of their territory were mercilessly attacked and killed. And their only real ties with humans is the people of the Behavioral. I said it right earlier. The Behavioral Kingdom. Even though they didn't like visitors, they did recently accept one. A man traveling via ship belonging to the sea folk. I was wondering where this dude was at. Bodygotti, where the hell have you been? Apparently he dropped off here. Just like he was going with Ellen Elise and suddenly he's like, out, peace out. It's like, what? But yeah, after some fuss, the ogre tribe, the ogre tribe accepted him in as a guest. He settled down, spoke with the ogre god, drank with the tribe, and trained their young. 2 years had passed, and a letter had arrived to him. The letter was concise. I found the person we were looking for in one of the 3 magic nations. In a few months, we'll be heading to the Renoa Kingdom University. So this is obviously a letter from Ellen Elise. After reading it, he stood up. The ogre god asked him if he was leaving already. After 2 years. He mentioned the fact that, yes, technically he's been living for like thousands of years. And so technically 2 years is like a blink of an eye. So yeah, it would technically lead them to believe, wait, you're leaving already? You just got here 2 years ago, dude. But yes, many of the ogre's tribe pleaded for him to stay. Trust me, I like to do that as well. But humans have a short lifespan. If I spend too long enjoying myself here, the one I would have to meet might die on me. With that, the ogre god, leader of the ogre tribe, bid him well. They threw a big banquet. They had a bunch of wrestling and eating contests just to kind of have fun before the guest set off. A man who showed up one day, fought the ogre god, lost, only to revive the next day, and lose over and over again in a cycle of death and rebirth. A great man with pitch black skin and 6 arms. They don't even say it, but yes, this is totally Bodygotti. Fwahahaha. Just wait. Fwahaha. Just wait. He charged westward, ignoring all responsive invasions, and hurled advanced tier magic at him. He plunged forward so fast that human information networks couldn't keep up. By the time he entered, they realized he was there. He was already gone. His destination was the Renoa Kingdom. Bodygotti's finally coming. He's finally coming. Which yes, I've been wondering this whole time, like, Ellen Elise is here. Is he waiting outside? Like, where is he at? Apparently he jumped off the ship. It's like, that's like that big question mark. It doesn't imply that he knows them. Like, they were on the ship and they went by and he's just like, hey, who's these people? And he jumped off the ship and he just runs in there. I would assume that they probably maybe came by there. He jumped off and he was just going to go check things out. And then he got beat down by the ogre god. Just killed. And then he got back up and he tried again. And he just kept getting knocked down. He probably eventually just like, man, this is great. I love this place. And they start hanging out and they just have drinks and everything like that. It's just like so casual. I'm going to go over here and die a bunch and then become friends. But that was wild. Very wild. But yeah, I'm just happy that he's finally going to meet Rudeus, which is funny because it's like that whole aspect of like, oh yeah, that was technically my thing I was supposed to do. He just kind of let Ellen Elise take care of it, which is kind of sad. She probably don't like him too much anymore, but again, this is what Bodygotti wants to meet him, like really badly. This is the guy he wants to meet because again, his wife keeps talking about this dude. And again, it kind of makes sense because he's like, dude, he's a human. He's probably going to die here soon. So I got to go see him before he dies. But yeah, I'm so happy to see him. Bodygotti finally going to show up. I cannot wait to see him in hopefully the next volume. And that leads us to the final chapter of volume 8. We're actually going to pull this off, hopefully. Extra chapter, Juliet and manners. This is a really, really cute little segment. There's like nothing really super deep here, but it's just really, really cute. Rudeus was enjoying lunch with Zenoba and Julie outside the cafeteria as usual. It seems like at this point, they're starting to draw attention. Like more people are starting to eat outside now because they're doing it. It's mostly people from the first floor, so not the royalties or anything like that. And yes, being people from the first floor, they all have bad manners. It didn't bother Rudeus or Zenoba, but Julie might start imitating. Ah, crap, he realized it. She was gonna pick up bacon with her bare hands, and he had to stop her. She trembled in fear as he corrected her. But Zenoba seemed fine with it. Like, he's like, Chernone's known for doing this. Like, we eat things with our hands all the time. Still, Rudeus wanted to make sure that she was properly taught from the beginning, and that she eats her vegetables. Are you saying that because she's a slave, master? I would understand if your reasoning was that. As a slave, she should eat everything I give her. But wasn't it you, master, who decided that we shouldn't treat her like a slave? That's nothing to do with it. How should I explain this? If we give in whenever there's something that she doesn't want to do, then she won't put in the effort when it comes to a situation where she has to do something she doesn't like. But Zenoba didn't understand this. I mean, if he had plenty of money, they're never gonna want for something. It's not really the case. Maybe he was overthinking it. He kind of thinks about the fact that he might be just kind of trying to force customs from his previous life in this world. Yeah, we eat stuff with forks and stuff like that, but we technically still eat things with our hands too, Rudeus. But no, he feels like he's probably equating to like royalty and nobility in our world or something like that. He's again forcing those customs into this world. If you insist that she must learn, then I will caution her as well. But considering it's irrelevant to figurine creating, I prefer not to. Rudeus wanted to set a good example, but he realized that she may never lead a life that's going to need those manners. No one cares for table manners of a crafter. At this point, Elnalise shows up. What's wrong? We were just discussing Julie's table manners. Like how it's not good to eat with your hands and not good to be picky about food. What do you think, Miss Elnalise? Hey, Julie, watch closely. If you're ever going to eat with your hands, do it like this. She snatched a thick slice of bacon from Rudeus's plate. She lifted it, pinched it between her fingers, and started to lower it into her mouth. The way she raised her chin emphasized the pale white skin of her neck. It was bewitching. The way she stuck it out with her red tongue to meet the pink bacon as it came close, making you want to lick the sauce from her cheek. That's bad manners, she slapped the back of her head. The bacon dropped. This is like a big stupid comedy routine right here, I swear. The bacon dropped, but just before it hit the floor, it was caught in the mouth of Persona. I freaking love Persona. You may be our boss, but that doesn't mean that you can waste meat like that. If you're gonna fling it around because you're full, give it to me instead. Persona had an angry expression, her tail whirling like a helicopter blade. If they skip this scene, I'm gonna be so mad. I know they've skipped extra chapters in the past. Do not skip this chapter. Bind, please. They're gonna skip it. At this point, Linnea mentioned that she was surprised that Zenoba was defying Rudeus. Honestly, because if Rudeus got mad, he would stop making figurines for him. But Zenoba was sure that his master wouldn't be so upset over a difference in opinion. At this point, Rudeus asked what Linnea and Persena's opinion was on the whole matter. Persena quickly claimed that it was good to never eat with your hands while holding a piece of dried meat that she was chewing on. Linnea claimed that being a picky eater was also a no-no-nya, even if she left dried grapes on her plate. As the two bickered back and forth about manners, Fitz appeared. Gotta get Fitz's opinion, which is a good thing, I think, this time. A really good thing, because according to Fitz, it was good that they let her relax sometimes. Honestly, yes, they're doing all this teaching of her. I mean, they're shoving so much information to her brain, showing her how great figurines are, having her gather all this stuff for Zenoba. Yes, she's technically a slave, but she's technically a pupil too. And she's still a child. She's still a person. And yeah, it's best not to overwhelm her. Let her have some point to relax. At the dinner table, the lunch table, let her have some fun. Some flexibility there. Yes, eventually Fitz mentions that she'll have to learn this, but for now, she's fine. At this point, Rudeus looked at Julie, figuring, yes, of course, tallying all that up, it's technically a tie. He would allow her to break the tie. She looked surprised. She looked to everyone, then back to Rudeus, with a little frightened face. I won't be mad. Whatever you decide, so choose however you like. She looked at the carrots, grabbed her fork, shoved them into him, shoved them in her mouth, pinched her eyes shut as she chewed. She swallowed chugged a bunch of water, placed down the cup, and then looked to Rudeus with an accomplished face. This is so cute. This is so cute. You ate them all. Very good. I'm so proud of you. You did well. Excellent. A splendid show. Now she won't be scared whenever she has to do it next time, yeah? That was brave. Ah, oh, I'm so glad. Everybody was cheering her on. Yeah, Julie smiled as she was showered with praise. So cute. It was the first time that Rudeus had seen her smile so proudly and boastfully. It was trivial, but she faced something that she didn't like and conquered it. Rudeus almost felt like it was his own accomplishment. Then, starting tomorrow, I'll start teaching you some table manners. Yes, please, Grandmaster. Rudeus had no idea if teaching table manners to a slave was the right move. But as he watched her nod, an earnest look on her face, he did know she'd done the correct thing by facing her fears head on. It's so cute. It's so cute, but it's so deep. It's so cute, but it's so deep. Somebody's gonna probably be like, don't think too much into it, Andrew. Don't think too much into it. But no, it means something. She smiled so proudly and boastfully. She faced her fears. She conquered it. It just seems so interesting in contrast to the eyes that she gave Rudeus when they first met. The eyes of giving up. The eyes that wanted to quit. The eyes that he once had that didn't want to live on. She was locked up in a cage and didn't want anything else. Like she was done. And now she's smiling. And she's conquering her fears. And she's achieving things. And she's pushing herself to do something that she had the option of not doing. I mean, there could have been other times before this. If you think about it, as trivial as it seems, you could say this is, at least as written in the novel, this is the first time Julie, who was a slave, was given an option. And she chose the option that was what she didn't want. An option that she didn't think that she'd want to do. And it'd be curious to know the mindset of it. Is it that she wanted to conquer something that she'd feared? Or is it that she wanted to do something that she felt, okay, well, at least some of these people are saying this is important than I do. She faced it. Either way, she was given a choice. She chose it. She did it. She looks so proud of it. They needed a picture right here. I guess I could just technically put up the one from when they first went and ate. Super cute. Super cute. Again, please don't skip this bind. Don't skip this scene bind, or at least give us an OVA or something. But yeah, that's a really cute wrap up. Honestly, I'm always interested in the extra chapters because, like I said before, sadly most every extra chapter has been skipped, except for probably maybe the extra chapters that are going to be around Ariel and everything from the earlier chapters that are probably going to be in the second season. I think the only thing that really made me want to push through the rest of this volume is the fact that I condensed a lot of this. Like, I condensed so much of these chapters because it's really just kind of a lot of build of the characters. We're really kind of like I said before, introducing Priscilla and Linnea, bringing them into the fold. We're bringing in Julie. We're kind of developing things around Zenoba and Julie. It's really kind of building these relationships and building these friendships. And yes, heavy part of that being obviously Fitz. Bringing Fitz into Rudeus' life and that friendship building. We're basically building a group of friends in the school. And whatever they're going to encounter going forward is obviously going to be a key part of this. Yes, still technically Bodyguardy showing up is going to be fantastic. And yes, obviously everything around Sylphie and Ariel is huge. Again, really get in perspective that she has been seeing him. She's not disguising herself. He's not recognizing her. She doesn't want him to be with Ariel. She wants him to herself. That's all a huge chapter. It's probably going to be the big stinger in this particular Mushoku Monday, obviously. It's probably the one that had the most discussion, even though it was literally like 2 pages. I loved it, though. It is really good stuff. But that, as a whole, Volume 8, really frustrating but fantastic volume. I will say that it's not my favorite volume. Like, for somebody else, a certain mod person in the chat, Not my favorite volume, but really good volume. And I think a lot of that was that earlier half. Like the first half of this volume is really good. As we started introducing all these characters, and like I was saying earlier, how I wanted to meet all these characters. I want Rudeus to confront all these characters. I wanted him to confront Ariel and Luke and all these characters. I want to see what they're going to do with each other. And I think that's all going to be... I hope I have it. I don't have it. I don't have volume 9. Damn it. Right Stuff, please. Right Stuff still has my volume 7 and volume 9. I swear I'm going to cancel everything else on my order for that just so I can get volume 9 before the next Mushoku Monday. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it'll come that quickly. But yes, everything here is probably going to come to head in volume 9. So I am super excited to get into volume 9. I've already prepared it. I'm getting ready to start diving into it. But yeah, I think everything that has been building up now, like I said, this volume is so much just introducing the school, introducing these characters, getting to know each one of them, getting the band together, and it has me really excited for what's to come next. Rudeus to run into Nanahoshi, to run into Bodygotti, to run into Princess Ariel, and hopefully eventually, one of these days, finally meet Sylphiette. But we'll see. I do have to admit that one thing that did sort of come out into the forefront with Volume 8, mainly the later parts of Volume 8, was almost a return to that very immature Rudeus side. He's always innerly very, very immature. He does a lot of things that are immature, very undeveloped. And I think, like I said, the one thing that stands out more, especially towards the later chapters of Volume 8, is seeing that immature Rudy come back out. It's been a long time since we had the, like, very outwardly inappropriate Rudy. The one that, yes, makes you go, that was a bit much, Rudy. Them grabbing these two girls, they're tied up, over a figure they didn't realize was very, very important to him, which, again, goes back into the mindset of Rudy and how he has a warped sense of mind. He's very warped in how he sees things. Again, them stepping on this figure is them stepping on this woman that he is portraying in his own mind is a deity, even though she is just a person in reality. To anybody else that's seen her, they would just see her as, oh, it's just a demon. It's just a Megurdian. Who cares? He sees her differently. He has this warped sense of mind. She got me through everything. Thus, I deify her, basically, even though she technically is still just a person. I see her as a deity, obviously, but to most people, it would be seen as a person. That's that immature side of him. And again, he's taking it outside of his mind now. And we're finally seeing him do things physically in the outside of his mind that is showing that immature side of him again, that inappropriate side of him again, where he's doing crazy, immature things rather than it always being just in his mind. We get a lot in his mind of him being immature, but now it's outwardly. He's showing it. He's busting open these doors, and it's all comedic. It's very funny. I still acknowledge that. Don't get me wrong. But if you think of it in a deeper sense, it's him outwardly showing that immaturity again, which we haven't really seen in a long time. And it's kind of surprising to see it once again. I'm not sure if that's going to be the reason why it is because he's now in school again and he's feeling like a child again. Might not be the case just because this is a university. This is not like our schools and stuff where it's like, it's people this age. Like I said before, this is people from 10 to hundreds of years old. It's not like us here in a high school or something like that. It's a little bit different in that regard. But again, it is interesting to see him do that. Not only that, but a lot of it has to do not just the perverted side, but just his reaction. Again, to the whole situation with Lindy and Priscilla stepping on this figure, he acted a bit much. Again, we know why he does this, because he deifies Roxy, and that she got him through so much stuff, and that he's put her on this massive pedestal. And I'm really curious the moment that might fall apart for him. Very curious. and it makes me really want the reunion of the two of them. But it's that reaction. What did he do? He flipped out. He scared Zenoba. Zenoba's like, this is this dude that's always overly polite with his mannerism and his talking, the way that he talks. Again, people like Soldat got angry at him for this, and even Counter Arrow felt this as well, that he talks weird. He talks different. He's always talked different in most people's eyes. He talks weird. Suddenly, he's yelling. He's angry. He's murderous in his way that he's talking. He has lost it. Rudeus takes this box with this figurine in it that he made, that he acknowledges later on, I can fix it and I can put it together. It's not that big of a deal. He realizes later, but like I mentioned earlier, he immediately went from 0 to 1,000, and he was dead set on to find who did this. Not use Zenoba, it's Linnea and Priscilla. We gotta go get him. Kidnaps him, throws him in here, starts doing inappropriate things, and before he finally stops himself and goes, wait, this is not that big of a deal. It's very childish and very knee-jerk reaction that he had that is not normal. And again, it's like it's highlighting that. So I found that was kind of interesting. That it's not, again, saying this is new. It's just saying that it's kind of different because it's more outwardly that he's throwing a tantrum, and then over here he's doing inappropriate things to people. It's a different take than we've typically had. So something that we really, again, the outward immaturity is not something we really had since, when he was back with Edis, back before the displacement incident? Ever since then, he's been very internal about it and just trying to survive and forcing himself to survive, then getting into a state of depression and being stuck inside of himself, mourning and being very lost. And now it seems like now that he's here and he's gaining friends, he's not dwelling on his loss anymore. He's not dwelling on Edis anymore. You could probably say that's because he now has a goal. He's been told by the man god he can fix his issue. He hasn't been stuck in a state of depression like he was in Volume 7, now that he's here in Volume 8. And now we're getting the old Rudeus back. And it's curious if that'll be something that'll eventually be noted and be caught on. So, we'll see though. But anyhow, that is Volume 8 of Mushoku Tensei Jobless Reincarnation. I hope you guys enjoyed this novel run through, and I hope that you guys will join me for Volume 9 and onward. As per usual, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you can get when those videos drops. Every Monday, it's Mushoku Monday. Drop by for the premiere. Go to our Discord. It's in the description below. Join the Discord. We have a Mushoku Monday channel so that you can go there. I put all the notifications there as well. Or you can follow on Twitter and all that kind of stuff. Greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel. Those that share this out. Those that check out the weekly videos. You guys mean so much to me. The comments you guys leave. Even if sometimes I have to turn off the comments because of spoilers. The likes. Hit the like button if you have not already. Those that can and are willing, I would greatly appreciate if you consider supporting us on Patreon. Tips link. Super thanks. Becoming a member of the channel itself. You get a cute little speech on emotes. Any way that you guys support the channel and whatnot, I greatly appreciate it. You guys mean so much to me, and I look forward to diving into Volume 9 next week. But until then, thank you all for watching. Until the next Mushoku Mondays, y'all take care. So you touched the test? So you did touch the test?